You're about to hear is pretty graphic, so I'll try not to freak you out. I was very fond of Kick Boatowski, Jimmy Two Shoes, and even Lab Rats, but I've never heard about this one. Yet, I have seen Kid vs. Cat, yes, but something about that show's final episode, the cat went back. It made me look at it differently. I didn't went online to go do the Kid vs. Cat website and saw the episode list that was showing season 3, but they all showed was part 1 of and 2 lost episode, what seemed to be cut from the series. The episode's number was SO3, E27, and E28. The title was Split Personality. I had never seen Kid vs. Cat having a lost episode before. Why was it unaired? And how can I get a hold of it before somebody else does? It turns out I actually knew the creator of the show, Rob Bowler, and he was my uncle's neighbor, and I contacted him at the bar on Friday evening. He said he was a bit drunk, but so I had the opportunity to ask him about the episode he made. I asked him about it, and he was so intoxicated that he just smiled and said, "You know, I was in a dark place when I made that episode. I'll be honest with you. I just don't want it to see my business crumble before me. But when IRS says you gotta go, you gotta go." I asked him if he can give me any details about how to get in my possession, and he simply just wrote something down on a piece of paper and handed to me. I looked. It was a download link which I will not mention due to reasonable reasons, but I will explain it at the end. I went home after drinking a few shots with Rob and typed in the link on my laptop, and my computer went crazy. The worst virus since the creation of technology. After doing the painstaking process of rebooting my laptop, I typed in the link in my computer again, and what would you know, it finally worked. What I saw was a black screen with a wall of purple text, and underneath it was a link. I clicked on it, and it was an episode of Kid vs. Cat. The intro was normal, but the title screen was a little off. It showed Coop and Cat staring at the viewer, looking upset with their eyes narrowed. And that's not the strangest part. It showed Coop's left side and Cat's right side, and all together as if it was half and half a portrait in a dark and a light background. What looked like heaven and hell, and the music didn't even help at all. It was a creepy song played by a violin and piano, and Cat's side was holding a hatchet, so I would know that as if it looked at two faces on separate sides, but the line in the middle was making it hard to look different. The show started with Coop walking out of school from lower form, and he talks to himself, but what he says was depressing and sad. "I can't take it anymore. Everything I do is wrong in their eyes. It's almost as if Bootsville hates me in a general. I mean, what do I even do to them?" As Cooper says this, he sees the school and glances down at his feet. I can't help it if I'm right about Cat being an evil alien. Every time I fight him, I get more and more punishments. It's almost like that his life goals is to drive me up the wall. I just don't want to deal with Cat anymore. I'm done with it, and if he doesn't care if I'm done with it, then I might as well pull the trigger on myself. Maybe that will get his attention. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Coop had finally hit rock bottom. I thought Coop had finally snapped and went into depression. I continued to watch and see the rest of the episode. During school, Coop had gotten bullied, and Cat sneaks into the school to get Coop in trouble. He gets an F in every class he took. After school, Coop then stares at the ground in sorrow. He goes into the house to see Millie make fun of him getting expelled from school. "Just shut up, Millie," he scowled. "I don't want to hear your bull right now." Did Coop almost cuss? Anyways, he goes upstairs to his room, but he stays quiet for the rest of the day. Kat then enters the house from the back door, and Millie takes him to her room to play. Bert calls Coop and asks him about him being expelled, and he was about to tell him that Kat was in school, but he just told him that he would never believe in him about Kat anyway. No one does. "Coop, you know I love you, but what you say about our Kat is all lies. So everything I say, Like how I would scrape a knee is just for attention, Coop snaps. Do you have any idea how hard I tried to protect you and this family from that purple goon? Now I have sacrificed my own life for this town. If those were just to sneak attention and make it about myself, then you need to open your eyes. Tears began welling up in Coop's eyes. Son, Bert says, I know when you're lying to me, and it's not right just to blame your cat for your mishaps. Mishaps? Mishaps? Cooper screamed. Are you drunk? I should have gotten a humongous thank you. But no, you have to backstab me in the back and force me to feed me broken glass. Bert then began to shudder in disbelief. Forced to feed you? Coop, that's not what happened. We saw you hurting Mr. Cat. That is it. Now you're going to stop yelling at me and promise that you'll never blame your cat for mere misbehavings. Oh, so now I'm the bad guy? Coop talked back to his father. I thought you were there for me. But I was wrong. You don't care about me. You care more about that sick freak than your firstborn child. You will pay for this. Coop just walked off, and just like that, I paused the video and sat there, thinking, what the hell I just watched? I just saw Coop's first argument with his own father, who scowls at him for trying to help stop the alien invasion. I thought Kid vs. Cat was, as everyone described it, to be funny but bipolar, but what am I seeing now was absolutely depressing and very sad. I continued the episode as Coop slams the bathroom door violently. That night, he just lays in his bed crying for the whole time in this series. It sounded like pain and it was very pitiful. These were not the tears of a child that he or she scrapes her knee, or not getting what they wanted. They were tears of betrayal and sadness. He had his face deep into his pillow, as if he'd be screaming if his face wasn't in the pillows. He pounded his fists onto the wall as well as he got up, his other hand looking at the pillow to his face. To be honest, I was both unnerved but also pitied him. He did not want to end up like this, always being threatened like shit for years and being a local hero. Coop then threw the pillow off of his face and just laid there, heavy breathing. He was sweating and his face was red from crying. He got out of bed and just stared at the window and into the night sky. He saw millions of stars that you asked the cat no bolins, and from the episode, the cat went back, beginning to cry again. Why? Why are you doing this to me? I'm just a boy. I just want you all to stop tormenting me. He began to whimper. You won't you look at me? I really mean look at me. You don't have a clue. I'm not evil. I'm just a kid who just wants a normal life. With that said, he put his hands over his eyes and began to whine and cry again. This time he was crying quietly. Cat then heard this out of his roof and began his plan was working. The next day, Coop was fighting Cat and suddenly was taken to Cat's commander's giant robots. Dennis had tried to save him, but he was caught as well and couldn't recall the rest because it reminded me of Kid the Cat that went back part 1. They took the part 2 to Cat Planet and get imprisoned forever. Yada yada yada. So on and so forth. Like I said, I didn't want it to go into any details on this one, so let me get to where it ends. But that's by far the most shocking. As they finally broke out, Coop and Dennis stumbled upon what's to be the most damning thing I've ever seen on kids' cartoon. They went inside the lab on how to make all the Cat's New Bolin soldiers. What is this place, Coop? Dennis asked in terror. I don't know. Maybe this is how these evil cat creatures are generated, Coop explained. Coop looked at these robotic skeletons and cat Nebolins as they looked at the glass jar of cat Nebolin's skin, and it looked more like light purple liquid with large purple spots on it. Dennis clearly wanted out of this place as soon as possible. This place is giving me the creeps. Let's just get going. Wait, maybe there's a camera here, Coop said. If we get a photograph of this weird laboratory, maybe Bootsville will believe us. Dennis gasped. That's a good idea, Coop. But as they searched for the camera, Cat pounced on them and the fight breaks out. Cat's Armanda and the rest of the soldiers join the battle. But as the fight escalates, Cat grabs a jar of Cat Nebola's skin and gets into throwing position. Coop, look out! Dennis called out in panic. Cat goes to throw it, but the lid of the jar was off, and during the fight, with Cat bumping into the table, Cat then throws the skin on the right side of Coop's face, and the jar hits the wall behind him. Coop let out a gut-wrenching scream as his skin burned into flesh and skin. The characters were backing away in shock, so did Cat, who realized what he had just done. Coop continued to scream and revive in pain as his skin and contoured into the right side of his upper body. What I could recall was just the right side of Cat's head. Coop accidentally knocks him out by ramming his head into the wall, and part 1 ends. I just sat there dumbfounded. I couldn't tell what I just saw, but I had to press on, so I watched part 2. Coop was in the hospital bed. He was gladly back on Earth with Dennis. He was also unharmed. Coop had been in a coma since the incident. Bert was there, and so was Millie. This is where things go downhill. Bert was arguing with the medical professionals about something. Coop can hear them, though, through his right ear, of course. And his father arguing about Coop and Dennis blaming Cat again for starting the fight with the gangs. You mean you tell me that my son was getting to fight with some gangsters and blamed our Cat for it? He hollered. That's what the young Asian kid told us, answered the surgeon. Bert then turned to Dennis and said, I'm calling your dad, and you, Coop, when you wake up, you're grounded for a month. And I don't care if it's a month, because you're not going to rebel against your own father. Coop was hearing this all of the time while in the coma. Inside was in the boiling cauldron of anger and hatred. He just wanted to scream, but shut the hell up, but he couldn't. He was stuck and all soaked in. After absorbing all the anger and negativity since the long week, the doctor was ready to remove the bandages. Alright, let's hope it's not so bad, the doctor said. The doctor snipped the bandages and with a pair of scissors and let them fall on his face. But when Bert was in absolute shock, was at the verge of fainting, and Dennis jumped out of his chair with a mass hysterica. I couldn't tell you what Coop looked like because it was all in Coop's eye view. What's happened to my face? Coop asked, as he figured out why they were suddenly panicking. Coop then rushed into the bathroom and turned the lights on, and I saw it. The right side of him, of his upper body, was now just like Mr. Cat's. Coop just looks at it and touches his right cheek, had a wrinkly feel to it now. Dennis then puts the hand on Coop's shoulder. Coop, it's not bad. Come on, cheer up. Coop suddenly glances at Dennis and says in a snarly voice, Why should I be, Charlie? He got what he wanted. Dennis just jolted back. Coop, are you okay? I will be okay once I wrap my hands around that little brat's neck of bringing that psychopath into my life. Coop then shakes his hands and it was a normal voice. What was that? Dennis then backs away and says, Okay, that was odd. Bert sees this and pays no attention. Coop, do you know why I am disappointed in you betraying me last night? He asked. Let me guess, grounded? Coop asked. For a month. A month? Coop said. But why? For snapping into the night and even leaving me to call the police for you to wound up like this. Suddenly Coop spoke again, but in a grim voice. Couldn't stand to bear the truth, Glenn. Huh, Dad? Oh, Era is no responsible person. That is what you've always be, the sting upon the throne of bullshit. And wait till the right time for me to take my life a living hell. Wait a minute. Did I just hear him cuss? He can't cuss in a kid's cartoon anyway. Bert snaps at him. That's enough, Coop. I do not tolerate this kind of attitude. You are grounded. Do you understand? Screw you 4 eyes, Coop hollered. He's still in his freaky voice. That's it. When we get home, your mouth is getting washed with soap. Don't forget to put that soap while in my mouth and in yours while you out it, Coop said. I couldn't believe what's unpredictable. Coop this wasn't like him to backsass his own father like that. This was something different, but from what I can tell. Coop got dressed and headed home, but that night Dennis was talking to him in a walkie-talkie. And Coop said in his normal voice again, I don't know what's wrong with me. Ever since Cat threw that jar of skin at me, I've changed. You need to get a psychiatrist. It's the only way, Dennis said. Then Coop said in a gruesome voice again, No, I'm in control now. Why should I give it all up? I wanted this. Dennis then sat up, eyes widened. Coop, what are you talking about? Dennis asked. You all will know soon enough. The walkie-talkie has gone silent. Coop hung it up. Bert can be seen watching TV with Millie and Kat, till Coop gets into the living room and comes out with 2 knives. My heart was pounding at this point. Coop, Bert yelled. I thought I told you to stab. Coop then stabs Bert in the gut with one of his knives, and he stood there, cocking his head left to right, showing him that he was one sweet innocent boy from Bootsville, but to be deformed ghoul that stalks in the shadows. By now the song of the title card was playing again in the background. Cooper! Bert yelled in horror. Why did you do that? Why? Stop him, Daddy! Millie yelped. Bert tried to convince Cooper to put the knives down, but Kat can be seen cowering by what Coop is about to do. Bert realized that Cooper was gone insane. Kat started it. You must have known that all along, but you ignored it. He was tearing me apart, but you ignored it. Get the pain and miserably, because he is going to fire me. Why would he do fit in? Bert then started trembling and begging for his life. We're just trying to make Millie happy. Oh, Coop, please, God, no. Coop then just creeps closer, cowering towards his father and waves around the knife at him. That's what you always say and do. You always make me think about her. You never thought about me. Where do I come in? When do I speak my quality time? When I trusted you? You hear me? I am a freak because of you. Look at me, Dad. This happened under your watch, and you call this yourself a father? I just screamed for Coop to stop, but I couldn't believe what was happening right before my very eyes. Anyway, Bert was still cowering before his medical son had stab wound in his stomach. Says to him, I was so busy, and I just wanted to spend quality time with you, but please, let me go and get you some help. You need mental help. Dad, Coop said, let me give you some advice. If you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. Coop jams the knife into Bert's chest over and over until there was blood and gore pouring from crimson red around him. Coop had just murdered his own father in cold blood. Now he was screaming, Oh my God, what did you do? Millie just sat in the corner and cried. Kat ran upstairs and hid in Millie's closet. Kat could hear Millie's loud screams as Cooper killed her. All he could hear was the two yelling and screaming, Coop cussing and spitting, and even Millie begging to be spared. But Millie fell on deaf ears and could hear footsteps going up and down to Millie's room. Kat cried and prayed nervously to God to forgive him of he committed every sin in the book. But the closet door swung open for Kat to scream, and it was the freeze frame that Kat had screamed at the top of his lungs. He was about to get killed. The red text box that reads, No man can hide from his fears. They are a part of him, and they'll always know where he's hiding. Then the episode fades to black. After it ended, the credits started to roll, but the music was reversed and it sounded demonic. Then the Disney XD Studio B Productions and the YTV logos appeared, but then they're in red, and the only color of the logos after happened the Nickelodeon logo appeared, but they spat wasn't realistic, blood colored, and the Nickelodeon frame was spelled backwards, making it something else. Now the copyright said 666 VTM Networks. There was a soft guitar piece that was there sounding very eerie, but after the two B and D of the Doom mask crashed into the screen and jump scared me, after that, the video ended. I was obviously angry at this, so I got on the phone and demanded Rob on what the hell was going on. But he hung up when he was nowhere to be seen or heard. So I got into my car and sped to Rob's house. I banged on the door and waited for him. No response, so I kicked the door down. Stupid was much so, was an emotional wreck, and to now how things were illegal, and searched for Rob but I entered his house. Boom. I rushed in and found him, dead. He took his own life. Now, I know why Kid vs. Cat wasn't making any more episodes, so I contacted his wife, who was in the grocery store while he was dead took place. She said the most damning thing I've ever heard. She told me that there was a lost episode that actually aired, and every child seen it, including their kids. I was at a loss for words. I would never think of that as a kid's cartoon with a lot of popularity could end this series, going on downward towards the spirals of madness and pain. I know that Coop had did in that episode. He threw it all away, and the heroism, friendship, and many victories with the evil alien race. He threw it all away for revenge against the former adolescents. I couldn't take any more of the pressure, so I moved out and wanted to start my life over again. Now I work at a coffee plant and get paid every day. Now, Kid vs. Cat is on YouTube, but I highly doubt watching it, cause there's someone who might upload the lost episode of the incident. You just never know. What happens that if it doesn't rear its ugly head in? You'll never know. And that, my little pretties, was Kid vs. Cat Split Personality. A Kid vs. Cat Lost Episode creepypasta written by TheDarkCat97. My final thoughts on this story. I know it's been a long time since I actually did a Kid versus a creepypasta that the Dark Cat wrote, and now since I kind of remember hearing this story from Shadow's old channel, I do know for a fact he did re-upload it, so there's definitely that. Now, I'm gonna have to say right now, this story was something. I mean, it was definitely something. Like, I mean, it's a good creepypasta, but I mean, it was very surprising, especially with the whole concept of its own self. I mean, what's very surprising was the fact that, um, Kid would Coop would simply, go insane after getting, attacked by Cat yet again. I mean, I haven't watched Kid versus Cat in like a long time. I think I watched it did like years ago. I don't remember it that well, but it was definitely a cartoon that I kind of remembered watching, but not really. I mean, I've personally have seen this episode that Shadow narrated on his old channel before it was terminated, and I mean, this story was actually pretty good for what it is. I mean, it's messed up, with Coop sitting there and going insane, and I definitely have to say right now that it's a pretty messed up concept of the story. I mean, I I have to say it was really well written for what this story really is. So there's definitely that. It's a very well written story. I mean, I really personally found it to be really neat and really well made. So I'm gonna say right here that this story actually was pretty well made in detail. I actually thought that this was, pretty well made in detail, and I really liked it. So I really have to say it's a pretty good pasta. I like how the grammar went out. It was a really well made story. It was amazing. It's definitely one of those stories that were pretty good. It's actually one of the fewer lost episode pastas that were good. And this one is actually one of the good ones I've seen. I mean, yeah, I've seen, pretty messed up content for what they really were. So I have to say, I mean, I like this story personally, although it was a little dark at times, but it was like a very dark story. But I still really find this one to be quite amazing of its own self to be that good. I mean, the concept was really good, the grammar was well done, the sentence structuring, basically everything about this story was like well done. There were a couple cliches in there that I did notice, like the blood gore cliche, and the episode could be found in a link. I mean, that's somewhat original. Finding a, a download link for the episode. So there's that. So that's definitely a fact that I just noticed. But yeah, I really have to say this one was definitely something. I mean, I definitely like the story. It's a well made made one. Now, I don't know if anyone else is planning to narrate this one, but I recommend you guys play this one if you really want to take a look at this one. Now, I really have to say it's a great story. It was definitely well made in detail. It's I like the concept of its own self to be, rather amazing and well done. It's pretty good for what this one is. I have to say it's still a pretty good concept for this story. And I recommend you guys check it out. If you want to check this one out, I recommend you do so. I mean, it's a good story. So, yeah, there's definitely that. And I definitely would have to say yeah, what did you guys oh yeah, I'm going to sit here and say this now. Like I'm going to say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a yeah. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9 because it was a little too gruesome. But I mean, I don't mind stories that are this dark and messed up. I don't mind that. I don't mind it at all. I mean, yeah, the story did somewhat had an interesting concept for what this one is. It actually was well made, pretty good and damn well beautifully well made. I mean, I like this story personally. I actually thought this one was a good kid versus cat pasta. I mean, to find kid versus cat pastas, like most of them I tried to find, they're like extremely hard to find because, well, either they're cliched or they're just not good in general with the grammar. I mean, like, I like this story. I still find this one to be enjoyable for what it is. It's still a well made, beautifully done, really good story. So, I guess I'm gonna sit here and, just say this right now. What did you guys think about this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to my channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.